I'm Kelly Olson. I serve as our Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs and our Dean of Students. And part of my job is talking about freedom of expression and what that means on our campus and how do we provide an inclusive community and diversity of thought and have a really successful student experience. The right to demonstrate is important because the role of higher education is for us to grow in our diversity of thought. So colleges and universities are places where people can come who maybe know who they are when they get here, but the goal is that they're going to be able to grow into who they want to be when they leave. And so part of that is challenging viewpoints, part of it's challenging ideas, concepts that maybe they haven't ever thought about before. And so the aspect of demonstration is how do we do that in ways that still provides for an inclusive community? I get asked that a lot about how to do a demonstration and how to make sure that it's meaningful. And what I say is the easiest thing to think about is what is your intent? What is it that you're wanting to do? And considering what your impact is. Because sometimes, especially at a college and university where we have a very diverse community, we have lots of different viewpoints, lots of different backgrounds. People come here with all kinds of things from their history, but when they come here, we're all Huskies. And so the meaningful demonstrations are really when we think about, okay, what's my intention? What am I wanting to do? But how is that maybe going to impact folks that I haven't thought about? Or how is it going to unintentionally cause harm when I have no intention to cause harm? And so really, I think the meaningful demonstrations is when you take that into consideration and you plan through that. And sometimes we are going to, just by demonstrating alone, we're going to challenge people. We're going to challenge ideas. That's part of being at a college and university. That's part of the student experience. But the way to do that in a meaningful way is to recognize it. And to recognize that that might be like a conversation afterwards. Recognize that maybe there's outreach that could be done. Recognize that there's potentially other folks that think differently than the way that you do. And so I think that that is really the way to make it meaningful and constructive and to have successful demonstrations. So campus demonstrations are outlined in our freedom of expression policies and procedures, and so that can be found on the NIU website. You can just Google freedom of expression, and you'll come up and you can check out all the policies and procedures. But demonstrations can happen at any outdoor space on our campus, and then we also offer Altgeld Hall 315 as our indoor location. And campus demonstrations, there are some aspects when you're planning a demonstration to consider. And so a couple of things are that while we say all outdoor spaces, we have to keep in mind that we also have outdoor programming that happens on our campus. So one of the things that we ask is to register your demonstrations, register your plans with us so that we can help navigate and support you adequately. And some of that will be to make sure the space is available. Sometimes that might be, you know what, there is actually an event happening right here that's going to be loud. So for example, maybe there's a DJ at an event. And so that might drown out what you're wanting to do. And so part of it is we can work together to maybe find another space or maybe even find an alternative time. So like we can help you know what's happening on our campus, what's the best time for what you want to do, and really talk through what your plans are. The other piece around where can demonstrations happen is there's also really helpful information around when we demonstrate, knowing that it's all outdoor spaces, what are some of the things that we have to consider? And so some of those things are that we have to still make sure that our campus is accessible. So, we can't block entrances or exits or accessible paths for our students. We have to keep that in mind, and that kind of goes back to when we talked about our intent versus our impact. We have to think through those things to really ensure that, again, all of our community can thrive and kind of have all these things happen at once. Here are the top 5 things to remember when it comes to freedom of expression and demonstrations. Number 1, we are excited that this is something you want to explore. As I mentioned earlier, the college experience is about learning from one another. It's about challenging viewpoints. It's about challenging our community, challenging our society, and learning in the process of that. And so number 1, we're just really happy that this isn't a topic of interest, that this is something you want to do. And so we're here to help you. That's the one thing I want you to remember. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to make sure that you have a successful demonstration. Number 2, we have a great resource, Freedom of Expression 101, and that's a resource I really want you to know about. You can Google it on our niu.edu website, Freedom of Expression 101, and it walks through what does freedom of expression look like, and it kind of answers it in things that you haven't thought about. So we've talked about why freedom of expression exists, freedom of speech, but we haven't also always talked about time, place, manner, and how does that impact when you're planning, and what types of things you need to think about and look at. And so that's a wonderful resource. Number 3, think about your intention versus your potential impact. Just think about it, because you are part of the Husky family. We are one community, and our community is really diverse, and we strive to be an inclusive community that all matter, but it's important that we all have a voice in our community. And so those are just things I want you to think about, is think about your intention versus the potential impact you might have. Number 4, college is a time to engage in thought and learning. And so take time to learn about others, but take time to also teach others about you. I think that's such an important piece of the college experience and being here together as a community. And then number 5, thank you. First and foremost, thank you to the Northern Star for this project. Thank you for bringing this topic to our attention, and thank you for watching, and thank you for learning more.